Ben didn't expect much from this job. It was supposed to be a simple task: go to a remote outpost on a quiet alien planet and fix the broken water pipe system. That's it, and out in 3 days. He even joked with his crew that he'd be back before they missed him. The planet, called Tirana 7, was green and peaceful. Thick trees reached high into the sky, and strange glowing bugs floated like tiny lanterns in the air. There were no large cities, no native species, and no dangerous animals on record. Just old ruins, overgrown plants, and a few human machines left behind from an earlier research group. Ben walked through the jungle with a small toolkit on his back. He had dark brown hair, a little messy, and his sleeves were rolled up. Sweat ran down his neck as he made his way toward the broken water system. His boots squished in the soft dirt as he followed the long pipeline. He found the break quickly. It was a cracked valve near a vine-covered wall. Water sprayed weakly out of it, making the ground muddy. Ben knelt down, opened his toolkit, and started to work. As he tightened the bolts, he heard a sound. It was soft at first, like leaves brushing together, but then it turned into a low thump, like something heavy moving nearby. He looked up, but the jungle was quiet again. Maybe it was a tree falling or just an animal. He shook his head and got back to work. A few minutes later, the sound returned, louder now. Thump, thump. It was steady and slow, like footsteps, big ones. Ben stood up and scanned the area. His eyes landed on a strange piece of wall near the base of an old ruin. It looked like a door or maybe part of a hidden passage. Curious. He stepped closer and brushed away some vines. Suddenly, the stone beneath his hand gave way. The wall opened with a loud click, revealing a dark tunnel going underground. What the? Ben whispered. He pulled out his flashlight and looked inside. Old steps led down into the shadows. Maybe it was connected to the water system. Maybe someone was using this tunnel before. He took a deep breath and stepped in. The tunnel was damp and cool. Water dripped from the ceiling, and the walls were covered in moss. Ben walked carefully, one hand on the wall and the other holding the light. He followed the sound of running water until he reached a large chamber. And there, standing in the center, was someone. Ben froze. It wasn't a person. It was a being. Tall, at least 10 feet high. She had soft purple skin that glowed slightly under the flashlight. Her eyes were wide, golden, and full of curiosity. Long dark hair flowed down her back, and she stood still, watching him. Ben's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The alien girl took a slow step forward. Ben panicked, stepped back, and slipped on the wet floor. He fell, landing on his side. With a sharp cry, his arm scraped against a piece of stone, and blood dripped from the cut. The alien's eyes locked on the blood. She moved fast. Before Ben could stand up, she knelt beside him, her large hand gently touching his shoulder. Her face came close to close, and then she did something he didn't expect. She bit him. Not hard, not to hurt, just a soft bite on the edge of his shoulder. Ben gasped, too shocked to move. Everything went black. When Ben woke up, he was warm. Too warm. He blinked and found himself lying on soft moss, covered by a thick blanket. No, wait, it wasn't a blanket. It was her. The alien girl had curled around him like a giant pillow. One arm rested over his chest. Her head was beside his. She was asleep, breathing slowly. Ben didn't know what to do. His heart raced. His shoulder still ached, but not badly. The bite mark was still there, clear as day. And this giant girl? She didn't seem dangerous, just peaceful. He tried to move, but she held him tighter. Not in a scary way, but more like a child hugging a stuffed toy. Ben sighed and looked at the strange ceiling above. I came here to fix a pipe, he whispered. How did it end up like this? He didn't have an answer. Ben didn't move for a long time. The giant alien girl was still asleep, her arm wrapped around him like a shield. Her soft breathing made his hair move. She didn't seem dangerous. In fact, she looked peaceful. Her purple skin had a soft glow in the dim light, and her long hair covered part of his chest. He carefully turned his head and saw the chamber more clearly. The space wasn't empty. It was filled with old symbols, glowing stones. and even a small pool of clear water. Moss grew along the walls, and strange flowers hung from the ceiling like vines. It looked like someone had been living here for a very long time. Ben slowly reached for his communicator. It was still clipped to his belt, but the signal light blinked red. No connection. He sighed. The underground must have blocked the signal. Suddenly, the alien girl shifted. Her golden eyes opened slowly. For a moment, she stared at him, then smiled softly. It wasn't a scary smile. It was calm, almost happy. Ben opened his mouth. Hi. She didn't answer, but she made a gentle sound, like a purr. Then she pressed her forehead lightly against his. Ben froze again. She looked happy, but he was confused. Okay? Ben said slowly, I don't know if you understand me, but I'm just here to fix pipes. Not this. He pointed to himself, then to her, and waved his hands as if to say, not a couple. She tilted her head, watching him. Then she gently placed a hand over his bite mark. Her fingers were warm, and she hummed a soft tone. Ben sat up slowly. She let him go without a fight, but followed him with her eyes. Do you have a name? Ben asked, pointing to her. She blinked, then touched her own chest and said, Varka. Ben nodded. Okay, Varka. I'm Ben. He pointed to himself. Ben. Varka repeated it softly. Ben. Then, without warning, she stood up. She was massive. Her head almost touched the chamber ceiling. She offered her hand to help him up. Ben hesitated, but then took it. Her grip was strong but careful. They walked together to the center of the chamber. Varka pointed to a wall with glowing symbols. Next to it was a small round device, an old alien translator. Cracked but still working. Ben tapped it. The device blinked, and then a soft voice echoed in the air. Bond confirmed. Chosen mate accepted. Connection complete. Ben's mouth dropped open. What? No. I didn't confirm anything. He looked at Varka. You bit me. I didn't agree to this. Varka tilted her head again and made another soft sound. She looked pleased. Ben stared at the translator. Does that bite mean we're together? The translator hummed, then replied, in Varkari tradition, a bonding bite is a sacred act. Only one may be chosen. The bond is deep and lifelong. Ben blinked. You've got to be kidding me. Varka stepped closer and gently touched his face. Ben could tell she didn't mean to scare him. She was just being kind in her own way. Her big golden eyes watched him with care, not anger. He took a breath. Okay, let's be calm. You didn't know I'm human. I didn't know you were here. We'll figure this out. Varka seemed to understand he wasn't angry. She nodded and turned to one corner of the chamber. She picked up a bowl of fruit and brought it to him. Bright blueberries and round green things filled the bowl. She offered it to him with both hands. Ben sat down and took one. He sniffed it, then gave it a tiny bite. It was sweet, not bad. He gave a small thumbs up. Varka smiled. The rest of the day was strange but calm. Ben explored the chamber while Varka followed him closely. She pointed out safe places, handed him tools, and helped clear a blocked tunnel entrance. She moved with surprising grace for someone so large. When evening came, soft glowing light rose from the chamber floor. Ben sat near the water pool, feeling tired. Varka sat behind him, gently brushing his hair with her fingers. It was strange, yes, but not scary. You're not what I expected on this mission, Ben said. Varka made a soft laugh, low and musical. As the light dimmed, she curled up behind him again, resting her arm over his chest like before. Ben didn't resist. Maybe it was the warmth, maybe the peace of the chamber, or maybe he was just too tired to argue. He whispered to himself, just fixing a pipe, and now this. His eyes closed slowly as Varka's soft breathing surrounded him once more. Ben woke up to soft light filtering through the cracks in the chamber walls. Varka was still beside him, lying close and warm. Her long hair spread like a blanket over his shoulder, and her golden eyes were open, watching him quietly. Ben smiled weakly. He had never expected to share a space with a giant alien girl. But here he was. The bite on his shoulder throbbed a little, but it didn't hurt much anymore. He stretched and sat up. Varka looked at him and made a soft sound like a question. Ben pointed to his shoulder and then to her, hoping she understood. She nodded slowly. Her eyes gentle. Ben wanted answers. He picked up the small alien translator device again. It was still blinking softly. He pressed a button and asked aloud, "What is this bond? What does it mean for me and Varka?" The device spoke clearly. The bonding bite is a sacred ritual. It creates a deep connection. Mates share strength, protection, and life. To separate them causes pain and sadness. Mates support each other forever. Ben took a deep breath. Forever? That sounds serious. Varka stepped closer and held his hand gently. Her large fingers wrapped around his smaller ones carefully. Ben felt an odd comfort from her touch. He looked around the chamber again. It was simple, but had signs of life everywhere. Plants grew in small pots, and strange machines hummed softly. In the background, Varka pointed to some broken pipes and made a motion like fix. Ben nodded. Yes, that was his job. For the next few hours, Ben worked on the water system underground. Varka stayed near him, watching carefully. Sometimes she handed him tools or cleaned a part with surprising skill. Even though she was big and strong, her movements were careful and soft. When he took breaks, Varka sat close. She seemed shy but curious. She asked questions by pointing to things and making simple sounds. Ben learned she could understand some of his words too. She repeated Ben and Varka often, smiling each time. Ben realized she was lonely. This chamber was her home, and Ben was the first visitor she had in a long time. She had never seen a human before, and Ben had never met someone like Varka. The day passed slowly. Ben shared some of his food with her, dry meat and bread. She tasted it and smiled with delight. In return, she gave him a strange fruit that glowed softly. Ben bit it carefully. It was sweet and fresh. As night came, Ben tried to call human command on his communicator, but the signal was still gone. He sighed. He was stuck here, with Varka and this strange bond. He sat on a rock, feeling tired. Varka came and curled up next to him, wrapping her big arm around his waist. Ben could feel her heart beat a slow, strong rhythm that calmed him. I guess, Ben said quietly. I'm not going anywhere soon. Varka smiled and pressed her forehead against his again. Ben closed his eyes, feeling strangely safe. The next morning, Ben woke to a strange sound, a soft humming coming from the walls. Glowing symbols on the chamber started to light up, showing pictures of Varka's people. Ben saw images of tall, strong aliens with purple skin, living peacefully in the forest. The pictures showed rituals, dances, and bonding bites like the one Varka gave him. He realized her people cared deeply for family and connection. The bond was not just about love, it was about trust, protection, and life itself. Ben smiled to himself. Looks like I'm part of your family now. Varka stood and offered her hand. Ben took it, and she led him through a hidden door in the chamber. Outside, the jungle looked bright and alive. Sunlight touched the leaves, and colorful birds flew between trees. Varka moved easily through the forest, her long legs making quick work of the thick plants. Ben followed, trying to keep up but careful not to fall. They came to a small clearing with a sparkling waterfall. Water fell over smooth rocks, making a gentle noise. Varka smiled and pointed to the water. Ben took a step closer and saw something. Amazing, tiny glowing fish swam in the clear pool. Varka laughed softly and splashed water gently at him. Ben laughed too. He felt lighter, happier. This is your special place? He asked. Varka nodded and sat down on a big rock. Ben sat beside her, even though she was huge. She made room for him. They spent the day by the waterfall. Ben told her about Earth, humans, and pipes. Varka shared stories too, in her own way, pointing to the trees, making sounds, and showing pictures in the translator. Ben felt the weight of his mission lift. Maybe this was not just fixing a pipe. Maybe this was something more, finding a friend, a mate, and a new life. When the sun began to set, they returned to the chamber. Ben looked at Varka and said softly, "Thank you for saving me, for biting me, for this." Varka smiled and touched his cheek gently. Ben lay down on the soft moss. Varka curled around him again. He closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of the giant alien girl who had become more than just a stranger. He whispered, "I'm stuck with you now, Varka, and maybe that's okay." Ben woke up to the soft sounds of the jungle. Birds sang high above, and the wind moved through the tall trees. Beside him, Varka stirred gently. Her large body still curled around him like a protective shield. Even though she was so big, her touch was soft and careful. Ben smiled as he stretched. Living with Varka was strange, but he was beginning to feel comfortable. He could not believe he was sharing his days and nights with a 10-foot alien girl, who had chosen him as her mate by biting his shoulder. As the sun rose higher, Ben stood up to check on the repairs. The broken pipes were still dripping, but with Varka's help, things were improving. She learned quickly how to hand him tools and even tried to imitate his movements. It made Ben laugh to see such a big creature move so carefully with tiny pipe parts. "Good job," Ben said, patting her arm. Varka smiled and made a happy noise. Then she reached down and picked up a small broken valve. Ben showed her how to fix it, step by step, and soon she was helping repair the pipes alongside him. Their teamwork grew stronger every hour. Ben noticed that Varka's eyes lit up when she worked with him. She was proud and careful, wanting to do well. After a few hours, Ben needed a break. He sat on a moss-covered rock and pulled out some food from his pack. Dry meat and crackers, not very tasty, but enough to keep him going. Varka watched him closely. Then, to Ben's surprise, she reached into her own bag and pulled out a bunch of strange fruits. They were bright green and round, with soft skin. Ben took one and bit into it. It was sweet and juicy. "Wow," Ben said. "This is good." Varka laughed softly, pleased that he liked her food. When Ben finished eating, Varka sat beside him and wrapped her arm around his shoulders. Ben rested his head against her warm skin. It was strange but nice. He thought about the bond between them. The translator said it was a lifelong connection, something serious. But for now, Ben only thought about today. Today he was alive, safe, and not alone. The afternoon passed with small adventures. Varka showed Ben places around the outpost ruins, hidden caves, old machines, and giant trees with strange flowers. She moved through the jungle like it was her home because it was. Ben felt lucky. Even if he never returned to Earth, he would not be alone. That night, as stars sparkled above, Ben heard the softest sound, a low hum coming from Varka's throat. It was a song, quiet and gentle. Ben smiled and listened. He could feel the care and warmth in her voice. He reached out and held her hand. Her skin was cool but comforting. She squeezed his fingers gently. "Thank you," Ben said quietly. Varka's eyes shone. She pressed her forehead to his again. Ben lay down, Varka curling around him as always. He felt the steady beat of her heart, the slow rise and fall of her breath. For the first time, he felt like this strange bond was not a trap, but a gift. He whispered into the night, "I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but right now, I'm happy." As sleep came, Ben dreamed of two worlds, his home, far away in the stars, in this wild, beautiful place where a 10-foot alien girl had chosen him. He felt brave, ready for whatever came next, because he was not alone. Several days passed since Ben's strange meeting with Varka. Each day, their bond grew stronger. Ben had fixed most of the broken pipes in the underground system, but now, he faced a new challenge, communicating with others. Ben's communicator still did not work well underground. He knew the human scout ship was nearby, looking for him. But how would they react when they found him with a giant alien girl? And what would Varka think of humans? One morning, Ben heard a loud noise above the chamber. A ship's engines hummed nearby. He ran to the surface. Varka close behind him. The sunlight was bright, and the jungle seemed peaceful. As they reached the clearing, Ben saw the scout ship landing carefully on the soft ground. Soldiers and scientists stepped out, their eyes wide as they took in the scene. Ben, one called. It was Captain Ryan, leader of the scout team. Ben smiled but felt nervous. "I'm here," he said. The captain looked at Varka and then at Ben. "What's going on? Who's she?" Ben pointed to Varka and said, "She's my mate." The humans stared. A few whispered to each other. The giant alien girl watched silently. The science officer stepped forward. She had a kind face and spoke slowly. "We did not expect to find a human bonded with a native species. This is rare and serious." Ben nodded. "The bite means we are bonded for life. I didn't choose. This had just happened." The captain frowned. "We need to take you back to base, Ben." Varka growled softly. She stepped protectively in front of Ben, her large hands raised. Her eyes glowed softly. Ben held up his hand. "Wait, please don't hurt her." The captain lowered his weapon. "We don't want to fight, but this is complicated." The science officer looked at Varka. "If the bond is real, separating you both could harm her, emotionally and physically." Ben looked at Varka. She seemed calm but ready to defend him. He took a deep breath. "I need time to think. I want to stay with her, at least for a while." The captain nodded slowly. "We can give you 48 hours. After that, we'll decide." Varka relaxed and sat beside Ben. She reached out and took his hand gently. Ben smiled. "Thank you." For the next 2 days, Ben and Varka lived together in the jungle clearing. Ben showed the humans how Varka helped with repairs. The scientists watched as she learned and adapted quickly. Ben noticed the humans slowly accepted her. Some even smiled when she laughed or helped with simple tasks. At night, Ben and Varka sat under the stars. He told her stories of Earth, of cities and machines, of rivers and oceans. Varka listened with wide eyes. She shared stories too about her people, the forest, and the sacred bond that connected mates. Ben felt lucky to know her world, but he also felt a tug in his heart to worry about what would happen after the 48 hours. He asked the science officer, "What if I want to stay? What if I don't want to leave her?" The woman looked serious. "Then you must understand that leaving the human fleet will be hard. Your life will change." Ben nodded. "I understand." The next morning, the captain came with the team to prepare the ship. Ben stood beside Varka. He looked at her strong arms and gentle eyes. "We will go back together," he promised. Varka smiled softly but nodded. The humans loaded supplies for the journey. Ben and Varka prepared to leave their quiet jungle home. As they boarded the ship, Ben felt a mix of fear and hope. He knew life with Varka would be different, but also full of new adventures. He looked at her and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me." Varka touched his cheek gently. The ship lifted off, leaving the green planet behind. Ben held Varka's hand tightly. Together, they faced the unknown future. The ship hummed softly as it moved through the stars. Ben sat beside Varka in a small cabin made large enough for her size. She curled beside him. Her long arms wrapped gently around his shoulders. Ben felt warm and safe, even though they were far from the jungle and the planet that had brought them together. Ben looked out the window and saw the blackness of space dotted with bright stars. He thought about Earth, his home far away, and about what awaited them on the human base. Varka watched him with curious golden eyes. She didn't understand all the places Ben spoke about, but she listened carefully. Her bond with Ben made her want to know everything about his world. The captain had told Ben the humans were nervous about Varka's presence. Many had never seen her kind, and some were afraid. Ben wished he could explain better, to help them understand the bond they shared. As the ship neared the base, Ben prepared himself. He knew people would stare. Some might judge, but he also knew he had Varka by his side. That was enough. When the ship landed, a crowd gathered. Scientists, soldiers, and curious onlookers watched the giant alien girl step out carefully. Varka's eyes scanned the faces, calm but alert. The ship moved through space, the stars streaming past like silver rivers. Ethan and Nera stood side by side in the control room, watching the vast galaxy before them. The weapon's energy pulsed gently, a reminder of the power they now carried. "We have come far," Ethan said softly, "but this is only the beginning. Nera nodded. The bond between humans and Lirari is stronger than before. Now, we must build trust with others. Ethan smiled. We have a chance to bring peace, if we are brave enough. The crystal floated nearby, glowing with soft light. It had been a guide, a protector, and now a symbol of hope. As the ship moved toward the stars, Ethan looked at Nera. Thank you for trusting me to touch the crystal. Nera smiled gently. It was your courage that made the difference. You chose to act, not just to watch. They both knew that their journey would not be easy. Danger still lurked in the shadows of space, but together, they were ready to face whatever came next. The ship's engines hummed softly as it sailed toward new worlds, carrying the promise of peace, friendship, and a future built on trust. And as the stars shone bright outside, Ethan remembered the first words Nera had said. Don't just stare, touch it. It was more than a command. It was an invitation to believe, to connect, and to change the galaxy forever. Ben held her hand tightly. We're together, he said quietly. The base commander stepped forward. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes. Ben, we're glad you're safe, but this bond, it's unexpected. Ben nodded. It's real, and it's strong. The commander looked at Varka and then back to Ben. We will respect your choice, but you must know this life will be difficult. The bond changes everything. Ben smiled. I'm ready. Over the next days, Ben and Varka learned to live on the base. Varka was curious about everything. She watched humans work, learned to use machines, and even helped repair equipment with Ben. People began to accept her kindness and strength. Some called her gentle giant. Ben was proud. At night, Ben and Varka would find a quiet place. She would rest her head on his shoulder, and he would tell her stories about Earth's forests, oceans, and cities. Varka shared stories too about her people's rituals, their love for nature, and the sacred bond of mates. One evening, Ben noticed Varka looking sad. He asked gently, What's wrong? Varka whispered, I miss my home, the jungle, the quiet. Ben hugged her tightly. We will visit one day, but for now, we are together. That is our strength. Varka smiled faintly. As time passed, their bond grew deeper. Ben felt stronger with Varka by his side. She was not just his mate, she was his friend, protector, and partner. He knew challenges would come, but he was ready to face them. He looked at Varka and said softly, No matter where we go, we have each other. Varka touched his cheek and smiled. Ben closed his eyes, feeling grateful for the strange journey that had started with fixing a pipe and led to this love and partnership beyond stars. The days passed slowly but happily for Ben and Varka. The bond between them grew stronger each moment. Ben learned to understand her soft golden eyes, and Varka learned to listen to his quiet voice. They lived together on the human base, which was large and busy. People came and went, some curious, some kind, some unsure. But Varka never lost her calm. She moved through the halls like a gentle giant, always careful not to scare anyone. Ben watched her with pride. She was his mate, his friend, and his protector. Together, they faced the strange new world of humans and machines. One morning, Ben received a message from the research team. They wanted to visit the planet where Varka lived. They hoped to learn more about her people and the bond that connected them. Ben smiled. It's time, he said to Varka. She nodded and smiled back. When they reached the planet, the jungle welcomed them with its green trees and soft sounds. Varka led Ben to her home, a beautiful place filled with glowing flowers and tall trees. Ben felt peace in the air, like the planet was alive with love. The research team watched in awe as Varka showed them her world. She spoke through the translator about her people, their customs, and the sacred bond that joined mates. Ben felt grateful. Their story was no longer just about fixing a pipe. It was about friendship, love, and trust across worlds. At night, Ben and Varka sat by a glowing pool. Varka rested her head on Ben's shoulder, and he held her hand gently. Thank you, Ben whispered. Varka smiled softly. Thank you. Their bond was strong, deeper than words could say. It was a promise of life, care, And forever. Ben knew that no matter where they went or what challenges they faced, they would face them together. As stars twinkled above, Ben closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of the giant alien girl beside him. He thought, fixing a pipe was just the start. This is my life now, and I wouldn't change it for anything.